This morning, we're very excited to have Jack Kulas from LSI. Jack is a longtime member of the Arbortext community. He's a regular voice on the Adepters mailing list and has taught programming and giving advice to many, including me. Today, he's going to show a real-life example of something he's doing to automate index generation using the XSL feature in Arbortext Editor. Now I'll turn the presentation over to today's shop coach, Jack Kulas. Jack, it's all yours.
All right, thanks a lot, Liz. I'm going to be talking about using XSLT in Arbortext Editor. Before I get going, let me give you a quick agenda for my webinar. I'm going to talk a little bit about my company and me to start out. Then I'm going to talk about the document problem, what I'm going to call it, that my XSLT addresses. I always need to have a problem there. And then I'm going to talk about the XSLT and then using it in Arbortext Editor. So first, a little bit about me and my company. Oops. There we go. Since I won't be in Las Vegas next week, I didn't want anybody to forget my face. So there I am. I'm Jack Kulas with LSI Incorporated in Jacksonville, Florida. We do training, web-based training, and tech pubs. Our tech pubs consists of primarily Interleaf, Quicksilver. We've got about 20 seats, and then Arbortext Editor. We've got probably around 15 seats, and there's some overlap of our people. We're using Arbortext Editor 5.3 M110 at the moment for compatibility with one of our other products. So you'll see I'm restricted to XSLT 1.0 in what I do. So my company got into got into XML about 7 years ago with a tech pub project for NavAir, which is the U.S. Navy's aircraft group. Our first project was a print-only version of flight manuals. The first issue that we faced was FOSSI or XSL-FO for our style sheet because we were doing print. One of the decisive factors for us was the very nice back-of-the-book index facilities available with FOSSIs in Arbortext Editor. So we went with FOSSI. We've been using FOSSI for supporting those old manuals and developing new manuals. All right, now next area, let me get into the document problem that I'll be talking about. The problem area, the document problem, is indexes, or more specifically, building better indexes, back-of-the-book indexes. The XSLT I'll talk about later deals with indexes. Now, book indexing is a real art. I don't know if you've ever done a book index. And a good index is very hard to find. What we are doing with our product, however, is not art. We're trying to develop fully automated indexing without any human intervention at the end of the book development process. And it's at that stage of the book development at the end where the human comes in and does the magic, does the art of creating a good index. But we are restricted to pretty much automated FOSSI-based index generation. Now, I want to show you a piece of the FOSSI code that is used for automatic index automatic index generation. If you haven't worked with Arbortext Editor and Index, it's a very nice facility. I'll show you some FOSSI code and a little fragment of the DTD that uses required Arbortext elements, the index entries. This index app is the text variable that everything gets dumped into, and then use rule 2 is what's required to actually generate the index. And all of the save texts that go to that variable, they need to be framed in these preliminary elements. And that's the Arbortext help file is very good in explaining how to do it. And when I started, that's what I used to create our index facilities. So to repeat, we began generating our index totally automatically using FOSSI coding. Now, before I get any further, I want to show you the structure of our documents, our manuals. They're probably fairly familiar to many people. We have a book that has chapters. The chapter has a title, and inside of the chapter are sections. Section has title, and then sub-levels of subsections, and it can go down, arbitrarily. We probably don't go down only 5 or 6 levels. It's going to turn out our indexing only is concerned with titles down to the 3rd level here. Let me show you some text from our manual so you get a sort of a concrete picture of our document. So here's a piece of our document after it's been generated. You see we have the chapter, then we got section titles and subsection and so on. And again, our indexing only is concerned with titles and titles of section, subsection, and subsection. A very limited set of strings and terms, and that's clearly showing you it's not really that much of an art. Now, in our original approach, which I started several years ago, a section title was a primary entry, a subsection was a secondary entry, and a subsection a tertiary entry. We used the index markup mentioned in the help facility, and let me show you that some of these terms, index term, the primary, secondary, tertiary, we don't use C or C also. That would require some added intervention. So it's just the primary, secondary, tertiary that we used. And let me show you now then an example of our original index that uses these 3 levels, primary, secondary, tertiary. Okay, so for example, lighting over here on the right column, lighting is a section title, exterior lighting is a subsection title, and then underneath that subsection we have anti-collision lights and so on. Those are subsections, and you can see interior lighting here is then a subsection of lighting, and it's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Can be done very easily in an automated fashion. Now, though it looks nice, some of the people that use it finally realize these indexes aren't much more than simply an alphabetical table of contents. But what's worse than that, if you really are interested in anti-collision lights, let's say, well, you've got to know that where they are, they're under lighting and under exterior lighting. I mean, you can't just go to the index and find anti-collision lights. So that looked like it was a serious limitation. And another problem with this sort of indexing is that it's only the first word in a title that ends up significant in terms of alphabetizing. And we'll come back to that as in improving our index. Well, to get rid of that first problem I mentioned about having to look deep into the levels to find, let's say, anti-collision lights, it's easy to recode the FOSSI so that we ended up with an index that was flat, that just had everything, all the levels at the same primary level. So let's take a look at that flat index. Excuse me. So here we go. Here's a flat index. Very simple to recode the FOSSI to get rid of levels, and now you can look up any term be the first word of any title, that is, and you'll find it in this alphabetized list of titles of sections, subsections, and subsections. Now, though this was more useful than the first attempt at indexing, I mean, it's still not quite what people are used to in indexes. And the missing ingredient is actually being able to look inside of a title to see if maybe there's a key word or a common term that is of interest to people that use the book, and indexing off of those internal words, or possibly the first word, but using common terms or keywords for primaries. And so that was the challenge that that I was presented. Let's make the indexes more useful by providing common terms for categorizing. So making common terms or keywords primaries, and then the secondary titles as secondary. So the problem: build an automated way to construct an index with keywords as primaries, and then put the titles as secondaries under these primary key terms. Now, and if we could have a list of common terms that are TechMan developers, the people who actually work on the manuals, a list that they could add to and delete from, maybe even specific to each book, that would make it even nicer. So that if for one platform there may be a vocabulary that you want to highlight, and another platform another vocabulary, and make it easy to modify that list of common terms. And so that's how this XSLT solution got born. And what I came up with, I'll call XSLT, which attempts to solve the problem of the internal structure of titles and the structure level that was presented in the original version. Let's take a look at an example of the newfangled index that uses key terms. So here we go. This is looking sort of like the flat index, but now you'll notice here power is a primary, and I'm able to actually look inside of the title, and any title that contains power, whether at the beginning or any place in the title, now it gets put as a secondary under power. And this is, you know, a lot more useful for people familiar with this aircraft. They have a handful of terms that they want to find, and structuring the index this way makes it much more useful. Now, there's one sample. Let me look at another page from our index. Excuse me. So here's the start of the index. See aircraft. Now, one of the interesting things I want to point out in this page, aircraft, and now if you look up here, the aircraft. In the old version, what would have happened? This term would have been indexed under, in the flat version, would have been indexed under the. Now with this, improvement, aircraft gets categorized in a more useful way. Okay. And an important part of this of using XSLT in Arbortext Editor is the people that do the development, the TechMan developers, or people that are not programmers or skilled in other software, they can call this XSLT from within Arbortext Editor. And again, they can tailor the list of common terms to fit the particular manual that they have, or they can just use the default list of terms. Let's look at one of those lists. So I'm going to call up Arbortext Editor here. Very simple here, this list of common terms. So our people can go in and they can add or delete terms very simply just by entering or deleting, which makes it, platform specific and more useful. Okay, so now the XSLT that I've written, it goes into our source XML document and it adds markup. It adds index markup, particularly index term, primary, and secondary. And it's the XSLT transformation of the source document that does that. Most of the document stays the same. We're only concerned about section titles, subsection titles, and subsection titles. Those are the only parts of the document that get decorated with index elements. And so, this is a particularly apt application, I think, for XSLT because we're preserving most of the document, but there's a specific structure that we want to fix and enhance, and that's what XSLT is good at. Okay. Now we're going to look at a source XML document that is actually transformed. We'll go through transformation and look at the result. So here is a version of our source document. And notice there it's not decorated. The section, here we have the section and the title, and we have a section title, and we jump down here. Here we've got a subsection under aircraft arrangement. We've got cabin layout, afterburner, splagnoid, whatever a splagnoid is. But you see here there's no markup, and we've got no index. I'm going to jump to the end of this document, and here you see here the index entries. I showed you that element earlier. It's empty. There's nothing there because there's no nothing in the index.app term at this point because we have stripped it out of the FOSSEE. Okay, so now I'm gonna run the XSLT that's used to generate a fully indexed manual. So now, and it's very simple. Open the File menu, Compose, and now one of the options is Compose using XSL. And for most people, probably they use it to compose to HTML. So it's often the default that comes in here is HTML. I've actually set this up ahead of time and put in the file name I'm interested in and the XSL that will be run. So you name your output, you identify your style sheet, and then you go. So I'm going to go up. Says it's already there, so I'm going to overwrite it. And it goes pretty fast. So we're done. So now let's actually open it up. Indexed manual, and we'll see how the section titles, subsections, so on have been decorated with index terms. So I'm going to close the front here. And so notice here now the title is now decorated with our index markup. We've got aircraft as one of the common terms, so it's a primary, and the whole phrase, the aircraft, is a secondary, and so on. If we look further down, propulsion was a primary. Here again, another aircraft. Down to the next one, the subsection. There was no term in the cabin layout afterburner splagnoid, no term in that title that was a common term. So the whole thing is a primary. That's at the top level, and so on throughout the whole manual. Now I'm going to jump to the end, and here you'll see here the index. Oops, let me just take it a little slowly here. You see here we've got wing occurs often at the start of most of the term of the titles, but wind shear, weapons, and you see there are a handful of terms that are interesting to us. Okay, so back to the top. So there you have how it's done. It's very simple. You it can be run inside of Arbortext Editor, and you transform XML to XML. I want to end with a couple of other features that are available when you use XSL in Arbortext Editor. You can open up the Java console, and it will serve as the port for your messages if you put messages in your XSLT code, and I'll show you that. And there's also a composer log for errors. If it turns out your XSLT is bad and you didn't know it, they'll get an error in the log. So let's go back to our manual, and I'm going to open up the Java console. And I'm going to run the XSLT again. Okay. And I have put some messages in my XSLT code, so I'm going to, let's call this index manual 1.xml. And we're going to run the same XSL. And now you got to, toggle between your console. So I'm going to say, okay. Whoops. Got a message, powers error. Whoops. Oh, I think I may have used the wrong. Oops, I think let's try this again. I think I used the bad XML, bad XSL. So that actually illustrated. Let me go to. Let's go back here. That was the bad one. That opened the error console. So let's use the good one and oops, sorry. So let's put the console back in. Let me cancel that. Let me open the Java console again. Oops. So now let's try using the good one, and we'll watch some messages come through here. Got to be careful. Make sure the bad one doesn't. I have two XSLs there. Okay, so now got the good one, and I should be able to. We should be able to see some things going on in the console there. So say okay, and now stuff is flashing in the console there. Oops. And what actually was flashing was where all the titles. I put in messages for all of the titles. Looks like I put duplications in there. So you can, if there are things that you want to include in your XSLT for your own purposes or for your people that run it, you can do that. And let me look again at the error console. There's that, the composer log. Let's show that. Okay. See here, there was the good run out. Oops, I guess it got rid of the other run. So if we run it again with the bad, if I were to run it again with the bad, you'd get some error messages in that log, and it's pretty easy to use those error messages to track down excuse me, track down problems either in your XML or your XSLT. Let me close by pointing out some further work that we can do. One last. So notice here's a piece of our index, our good index, but notice how introduction is just loaded with entries, and it's not likely that anybody's going to be interested in going there. So what we could do, and I think probably will happen, is enhance the XSLT to exclude certain titles that just are not of no interest, like this one. Maybe also excluding if there are titles with "the" at the beginning, and that don't have keywords, excluding those. So, we can add features to our XSLT to make our index better, build even a better index. So, there we have it.
Excellent. That was great. Thank you, Jack.
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll give people a chance to type in their questions, and in the meantime, I will take the presentation back and put up the resources for Arbortext users so that everyone knows all the things that are available to all of us. If you want to be able to click on these things, it's just a sampling. All you need to do is go to the URL at the bottom of the page. So we have one question already here. It looks like you are not storing indexed content. Is that right? The index-ready XML is created during production and then discarded?
The index markup is saved. Excuse me, in the output XML file. So we have two versions, of the file. The untransformed version, which doesn't have any index markup, and then we have the transformed version, which has the markup. So both of those are available. Does that answer the question?
We'll find out.
So yeah, we do save it. I mean, it is. It can then be sent out to print composer. Let's see if that does answer. I don't know.
So there's a follow-up. So, but authors would go back to the original to update content.
That's correct. And then they would run the run the XSLT again. Or if they didn't like things, I mean, you could conceivably go into the transformed version and make some changes. For example, you could change all the introductions. You could strip those out. So that's a possibility. We want to try to automate that. But if somebody had some time, they could fix up, do some post-processing of that transformed source document. Yeah.
All right. Since that answers the question.
Very good.
So we have another question. Well, it's more of a comment. Clap, clap, clap. Loves the name Index XSLT. That's great. Excellent. All right. If we have any more questions, feel free to type them into the box, and we'll do that. Looks like we're right close to the half hour. And let's remind everyone that PTC User Live Conference is next week in Las Vegas. And oh, here we go. Now we've got a question. In the XML with the built index, the index itself is shown as auto-generated text in pink. Can you please say a bit more about how the index got displayed?
That's interesting. It's through the FOSSEE. The FOSSEE does that through that index.app term. Because there's a use text in there that just gets run, and so it's that index content is that's my understanding, of how it gets there. So just like any generated text.
So Jack, this is Raymond.
Right.
So basically, I think part of the question was the fact that index wasn't there before you ran the XSLT process. That's because there was no index markup in the original document, but because that index markup got introduced, the FOSSEE index handling got invoked in the second document.
That's right. You got it. That's it. That's right. Because that original document, the original source has no index markup at all. So that index entries element has nothing in it. There's no index.app content. That text string has no content. And so as we enhanced and transformed the document, that index.app element gets content. So, yes. Good.
All right. So I think that answers our questions. All right, thanks everybody for coming to the Arbortext Monster Garage. We'll see you next time in 2 weeks from today, right after a PTC user conference. Thanks everyone. Bye.